This planet never rebelled. It never raised a banner, never fired on Imperial forces, never whispered the name of a forbidden god. Every tithe was paid in full and often in excess. The shrines were full, the bells rang on schedule, and the people worked until their bodies failed because they believed suffering was service. By every visible measure, this world was a model of Imperial loyalty. And yet, one day, the skies filled with silent ships, not to save it, not to punish it, but to finish it. No declaration of Exterminatus was ever issued. No crime was announced. The population would die anyway. Because in the Imperium of Man, loyalty is not protection. Sometimes, it is the reason you are erased. Most people think the Imperium destroys worlds because they rebel, because they fall to chaos, or because xenos corruption leaves no other option. That belief is comforting. It suggests there is a line you can avoid crossing, a mistake you can choose not to make. But the truth is far colder. The Imperium does not rule through justice or wrath, it rules through calculation. Worlds are not judged by morality or faith, but by output, efficiency, and long-term cost. When a planet stops being useful, when keeping its population alive requires more resources than replacing it, loyalty becomes irrelevant. In fact, loyalty makes the process easier. Loyal worlds do not riot. They do not question delays. They do not resist when aid fails to arrive. They endure in silence, trusting that the Imperium will provide. This is the story of one such world, and how doing everything right ensured that no one came to save it. The world was a bureaucrat's dream. Every census was accurate, every labor quota met, every tithe shipment sealed, stamped, and delivered ahead of schedule. Administratum reports described the planet as spiritually stable and civically obedient. There were no recorded riots in 3 centuries. No labor strikes. No unauthorized gatherings. Even crime rates were statistically negligible, largely because the population had internalized discipline as a virtue. Children were raised to believe their purpose was contribution, their reward survival, and their legacy anonymity. Faith was not explosive or fanatical here, it was procedural. People prayed because the schedule said to pray, worked because the shift horn sounded, and endured because endurance was praised as holiness. From orbit, the world looked perfect, hive stacks humming, manufactorums glowing, transport lanes clean and efficient. It was not a world that demanded attention. And that was its first failure. In the Imperium, attention is not drawn by loyalty, but by disruption. The planet blended into the background noise of a million compliant worlds, trusted enough to be ignored. No inquisitors watched closely. No relief fleets hovered nearby. Trust, in Imperial terms, does not mean care, it means neglect is permitted. The problem did not arrive suddenly. It crept in through margins and footnotes. Resource veins thinned. Atmospheric recyclers required more maintenance cycles. Workers took longer to recover from shifts. Medical requests increased by small, almost polite percentages. None of these changes were dramatic enough to trigger alarm protocols. Instead, they were logged, averaged, and projected forward. Administratum cogitators calculated future output curves and quietly adjusted expectations downward. The planet was still productive, just less so. And in the Imperium, decline is not a sin, but it is a warning. Requests for infrastructure aid were submitted, correctly formatted, fully justified. They were received, acknowledged, and deferred. Not denied, just postponed indefinitely. Supply rerouting decisions were made elsewhere, favoring younger worlds with higher growth potential. No one hated this planet. No one wanted it to die. It simply began to cost more than it was worth. That was enough. The planet's greatest crime was inefficiency, and inefficiency, in the Imperium, is a form of heresy no priest preaches against, but no administrator forgives. The decision was never called an execution. It appeared as a recommendation embedded in a larger optimization review. Several options were modeled: full reinforcement, partial reinforcement, population relocation, controlled decline. Reinforcement was too costly. Relocation was inefficient, moving billions of compliant workers required ships, time, and political effort better spent elsewhere. Controlled decline was optimal. The term sounded gentle, almost compassionate. It meant reducing support to baseline minimums, allowing natural attrition to rebalance population against output. No weapons were authorized. No fleets deployed. Only adjustments. Medical shipments were reduced to emergency-only classifications. Atmospheric maintenance cycles were extended beyond safe margins but still within acceptable tolerances. Nutrient-paste formulations were altered, cheaper substitutes, slightly less effective. None of these changes were illegal. None violated Imperial law. They followed doctrine perfectly. On paper, the planet was still being supported. In reality, it was being starved, thinned, and aged into extinction. The elegance of the solution was praised internally. No resistance risk. No collateral damage. No uncomfortable headlines. A loyal world would comply with its own death. On the surface, people noticed things, but never all at once. Hospitals grew crowded. The air felt heavier, though instruments said it was safe. Workers collapsed more often, but sermons reminded them that sacrifice was holy. When aid did not arrive, the population assumed the delay was temporary. Loyal citizens always assumed that. There were no riots demanding answers, no uprisings forcing investigation. Faith filled the gap where anger should have been. Families adapted, then suffered, then vanished from records as mortality rates quietly climbed. Administrative tallies updated automatically. Each death was not a tragedy, but a correction. Entire districts emptied over decades, their absence logged as demographic normalization. The Imperium did not hear screams because there were none. Loyalty kept the population orderly as it died. In the end, there was no final moment, no firestorm, no great horror, just silence spreading through hab-blocks that no longer needed power. This is why loyalty sealed the planet's fate. A rebellious world is loud. It disrupts supply lines, draws inquisitorial scrutiny, forces decisions. A loyal world absorbs suffering inward. It waits. It trusts. And while it waits, the Imperium finishes its calculations. By the time anyone might have questioned the outcome, there was no one left to ask for help. The planet was eventually reclassified as a depleted asset, its remaining infrastructure stripped, its orbital records archived and sealed. Officially, it never fell. It was never punished. It simply fulfilled its purpose and expired. In the Imperium of Man, loyalty does not guarantee survival. It guarantees that when the end comes, it will arrive quietly, efficiently, and without anyone noticing until there is nothing left to save. In the end, there was no monument to mark the planet's passing. No record of betrayal, no declaration of heresy, no final judgment pronounced from orbit. The Imperium does not mourn worlds like this, because to acknowledge their deaths would be to admit that obedience is not safety. The planet's name was filed away, its population reduced to a series of completed ledgers and resolved discrepancies. What remained was labeled efficient closure. From the Imperium's perspective, nothing had gone wrong. The system worked exactly as intended. A declining asset was removed without unrest, without waste, and without distraction. That is what passes for mercy in an empire built on survival above all else. This is the truth that most Imperial citizens will never be allowed to understand. The Imperium does not protect humanity because it loves it. It preserves humanity because it needs it. And when a part of that vast body becomes weak, unproductive, or costly to maintain, it is not healed, it is amputated. Loyalty does not make a world valuable. Output does. Silence does. Predictability does. A loyal population does not resist, does not question, and does not force the Imperium to confront its own cruelty. It simply endures until endurance becomes extinction. Somewhere, on another compliant world, the same calculations are already being made. The same margins are thinning. The same requests are being deferred. And the people there still believe that faith will save them, that obedience will be rewarded, that suffering has meaning. They will never know that the decision may already be signed, stamped, and forgotten by those who made it. Because in the Imperium of Man, death does not always come from the sky in fire and judgment. Sometimes it comes in the form of patience, trust, and perfect loyalty. And when it is finished, no one will call it a massacre. They will call it efficiency.